Good morning, everyone. This is Skip Farr from Hardollar. This session is designed to look at the CBS register, talk about a few tips and functions and features that may be of some value for you. So I'm starting from our start page, and I'll just click on my training job here and open up the cost breakdown structure, what we call the CBS register. So let me just give you a few tips here that may have some value for you. Notice we got this CBS tree filter mode. This can be used or not. It's simply up to you. How it does work, since this left side basically shows just the level 1 cost items initially as the default. So this left side is a shorter list than the right side. So if you want, this can be used to essentially filter the right side. So just by clicking on the description here, you can filter the right side. So that enables you to take a large cost breakdown structure you may have on the right side and hopefully make it a little more easy to manage. So if you want to use this, you certainly may. It's not a requirement. If you want to bring the right side back full, I'm just going to click on the job row description and you'll get everything back. You can hide this filter mode or simply move the left screen over or the right screen over and you can hide that so it's not in your way. There's other ways to filter. Some of these I think most of you know, but just to refresh your memory, we got this view command up here. Notice that we can do some expanding, collapsing, we can do some filtering. Don't be afraid to use these to help you manage data more effectively. I'm going to say collapse all subordinates, and you notice now I do have only just the level 1 cost items. So then I can expand just the areas that I would want to get involved in. Just another way to manage the data. If you want this back full, I'm simply going to go back up to the view command and say expand all subordinates, and they all come back. Again, don't forget that this CBS register, this standard view that I'm looking at, has over 120 columns in it. It's huge. We have provided example views for you that you can certainly look at, modify if you like. So again, don't be afraid to take one of our views and modify it to fit your scenario that you would want to use and would be helpful for you. Okay. So for instance, if I just want to say I want to look at my production view, we're showing just a few of the columns. You may want to delete some. Maybe you don't need the currency. Grab this with the left mouse, drag it down, see the black X, release the mouse, you've hit it. Maybe you want to add a view that we don't have, or a column. So remember, we right-click, column chooser. Comes a little bubble help to tell you what's going on. Maybe I'm looking for an optional code here. I'll scroll down. Looking for my O's, if I can find my O's. Optional code, drag it out, maybe that's where I want it. I'll best fit this so you can see it. If this was the view you wanted, remember, you just click up here, click the little floppy disk looking symbol, and you may give it a name. Click OK, and you have this view. So again, all these views that we provided and those you can create, it's designed to help you become more efficient, to only look at the data you need to look at for the situation and the scenario that you're in. The view that you just created, you could delete if you like. That's what this red X is all about. So I'll delete that one. I don't need it. So it's gone. We have another view I'm going to start with. It's called the CBS Simple View. Again, any of these views, I want you to realize you can print out. It's like a summary report. Okay? All our register views you can print. I'm going to choose Print Preview. This is what your report would look like. You have the ability to export this report into different file formats. You may send it email. So many times you will have data that is displayed on a register, a summarized information that would look good in a simple report, Excel, PDF, whatever. You can certainly do that. I'm going to go back to our standard view for us, okay? Couple things here on the views. Filter by your cost source, quote, detail or plug. You can filter just the terminals. Remember, those are the cost items where all your detailed costs are. So you can eliminate the superiors if you want. You can filter to a particular CBS level. So play around with these views. You can do that. You can filter by resource, meaning show me all the cost items where a particular resource is utilized. You can do the same with an assembly. Many times I have questions that say, you know, I want to enter productivity, but I don't need to open up the record all the time. Well, let's go to a view here that's called production view. This is view that we've provided. You can add to it. I'm going to hide the currency column. Notice that we got hours, and if you were to scroll over, you'd see days, shifts, units per man hour, and so forth. But notice on some of these fields are editable. They're not read-only. So many times from a quick setup perspective, you may want to just change some productivity here on the register instead of opening up each record. I'm going to scroll over to find a unit of measure, which is way over here. Let's say it's by hour. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to group by it. I'm going to scroll now over to the left, grab my column, and put it where I want it. So now I got a unit of measure per hour and the hours. So here's my excavation. I'm saying I want to do 400 cubic yards an hour, which is so many hours. If you want to change it, you can certainly change it. So many things from the register perspective, you can enter information without always having to open up the record view to do that. Another way that's helpful, some people have asked, well, you know, I need to set up a lot of items that I need to plug a cost. I don't want to do them one at a time necessarily. You know, I got a lot of subcontract items. I just want to get started with some plug numbers. Is there a quick way to do that? Well, we have a view here called plug cost view. I'm going to hide the currency. Notice our cost source. And we got our cost categories, labor, equipment. Just scroll over to the right, you have all 10 cost categories. Subcontract would be one of them. But notice that when my source is detailed, these are read-only. In other words, I can't change them. They're results. But if I switch this to a plug, you can change it. So I'm going to switch my excavation to a plug source. And now notice that my fields are editable for us. So if I want to plug in some labor cost, a unit cost, I can do that. I could rearrange the view, have my subcontract column over here if I wanted to set up subcontracts entries. So when you switch the source to plug, we open up this cost category fields for you for data entry. That might be a quick way to change a cost, a plug cost, very quickly. Okay. I'll switch this back to detail, which goes back to my original detail source. We also have another view here called suspend view. It's got this column, suspend. This is great for alternate types of cost items. You may have a couple ways to perform the work. You're not quite sure which one is the correct one. You can add your respective cost items. Decide which one you don't need. All you got to do is click the little checkbox, tab off. Now I get a message because my job has been scheduled. Basically, it's going to remove the item from the schedule. But I've removed it. We have temporarily suspended the cost. Now, if you don't want to use this column, you can simply right-click and see where it says toggle suspended. Click that and we remove what was suspended and bring back the cost for you. This suspend can be helpful again for alternate ways of doing things. Always don't be afraid to, on an item, right-click and see what you can do. You can, of course, insert subordinates. You can insert resources and assemblies directly from the register. You don't have to do it from the record mode. Okay. There's some other features here that I want to talk about. One is split. Now I'm going to go back here to my unclassified X. Let's assume that this 50,000 yards is the total, but I want to split it into multiple parts because each part, some is going to be scraper, some's going to be truck haul, and I want to get a little more refined and detailed on my costs. So I've already developed the crews and productivity. I may want to alter them a little bit, but I want to start all over from scratch. So I'm going to right-click and choose Split. And a little buck says, well, how many parts? To make it simple, I'll just say 2. And I'll click OK. It says, are you really want to? I say yes. There's my first part. There's my second part. Each part I took the original quantity since I said by 2. That's 25,000 there, 25,000 there. Of course, you can change the quantities, but you have the structure. Open each of them up, make your productivity changes, your resource changes. It's a great way to take something you've already started and continue on with a more refined, detailed cost approach. Another thing that sometimes people ask me, well, I used the wrong resource. I should have used my 235 instead of the 225, or the loader was wrong, or I used the wrong personnel. Can I swap them? Well, the answer is yes. Go up here to Tools. See where it says Swap Resource. You may do the same with an assembly if you like. I'm going to swap the resource. This box simply says, what's the current one? Well, click the button, up comes the list. Which one are you interested in? I'm always looking at this utilization count to see exactly which ones were utilized. So I'm going to sort on this, high to low, and I can see which ones were utilized and which ones were not. So I'm looking over here and I say, oh, I got this D8 dozer. Maybe I should have used the D6. I come down here. I do have a D6 and it was used, but maybe I should have used the D8. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to swap that D6 with the D8. So I'm going to say OK. Decide to swap it with my D8. So the question now is, do I replace all of those that are not unique? Remember, you can change a resource that's specific to a cost item that we put the little unique symbol on. So this will say, don't touch those. This option here says, I don't care if they're unique or not, I want to swap. I'm going to choose the first one, I'll say OK. In this case, I only got one cost item where that swap will take place. You could have had many. In other words, we will display for you all the cost items where that swap will take place. And there's an include column. So if you had more than one, you can still decide which ones you may not want to make the swap just by clicking the thing. Well, I'm going to simply click OK. This confirms the cost item where that swap will take place. And I just swapped the D6 with the D9. There's another view I want to talk about quickly. We call it an account code view. This is for budgeting. If you set up accounts to help us generate your budget, of course we can create an export file for your accounting system and so forth. But what this view is the account code and the cost categories. If you take this and group by it, essentially what we're showing you is the account code, the cost items that are assigned that account code, the total dollars, and the dollars per cost category. So from a minimum, from the budget perspective, you can see the cost distribution by cost category based on an account code. Of course, you can open up any one of these to get more detailed if you like. Okay? This can be printed. You can print this. You can send it to Excel if you like to. Okay? In addition to printing that I looked at earlier, you can export to Excel. And we'll export the whole view of whatever this register view is to Excel directly for you. Okay? So, many different ways of looking at the information and helping you decide how this register can work for you. One last thing I want to talk about. We have a view called Cost Source View. In this case, we created a view where we grouped the cost sources, detail, plug, and quote. So if I want to open up which ones are plugged, there's the ones that I plugged and their total dollars. If I'm interested in the ones that I've quoted, there's the ones that I've taken quotes on. Again, different ways to look at the information. I'll go back to my standard view where we started. These are just a few tips that you might not have remembered or didn't get involved in. Hopefully it will have some value to you. I want to thank you so much for taking time to look at this, and there'll be other tips that we'll provide also for you. Thank you very much.